Okay, so hi everyone, welcome to our first panel of the day. I see we have another team joining our Zoom sessions. Great, hi. So yeah, this panel is titled Sounding Difference, Music AI Across Cultures. My name is Rujing Stacy Huang. I'm an ethnomusicologist and also postdoc researcher on music cultures and artificial intelligence at the KDH Royal Institute of Technology. I'm also the co-organizer and judge for this year's AI Song Contest. And today my co-host is Hanoi Hantrakul. Hanoi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Hanoi, calling in from Bangkok, Thailand. Really excited to be here as a co-host of this panel. I'm an AI research scientist at TikTok in music and machine learning. The research that I focus on is using the intersection of artificial intelligence with signal processing to develop tools for musicians and non-musicians across different cultures and across all musical skill levels.
Great. So, as we all know, music technologies, they don't exist in a vacuum. Rather, they very much are historically and culturally situated artifacts. So, so far, most of the interactions we know between artificial intelligence and music happen in the realm of Western classical music and Western popular music. We see relatively fewer attempts to engage the many other great music traditions across the world for various reasons. But what's really interesting is that in this year's AI Song Contest, super exciting that we see many really creative endeavors from teams to weave into their entries very unique musical and cultural elements from of their respective traditions. And here, this is why so we're super honored to have joined us 4 participating teams from this year's AI Song Contest, whose entries shine in this way. So before we move on to have the teams present themselves and move on to our moderated panel discussion, I want to start by playing a short welcoming video from Ajay Kapoor, who is guest judge of this year's AI Song Contest, to kick off our panel. I think our tech team is trying to
I believe the tech
pull
team
it
is
out.
the video.
Right. I think the tech team is trying to pull up the video, so maybe just a few seconds.
We don't have the video for the moment. Thank you.
Oh, okay. In that case, that's maybe we should first move to the team's introduction and brief presentation. So yeah, Hanoi, do you want to take over with who's our first team? I think that's
Right. So up first in the 4 teams that are joining us on the panel today, team, and the correct pronunciation, as I've learned from Bob, is Strum.
Thank you very much. I'm coming through loud and clear.
Yes, you are.
Good. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I'm one of the members of the Stockholm team. STHLM is the acronym for Stockholm. And I come from the United States. I am a cross-disciplinary person with degrees in physics and engineering, and I have studied music. And most recently, my research has entered into the domain of music modeling and generation, mostly in the symbolic side of things, and mostly when it comes to folk music of Ireland and Scandinavia. And my other team members, Daniel, he's a flutist, amateur flutist, and he plays many instruments actually, but an accountant during the day, and Lisa, who actually sells machine learning solutions as a day job, but is a very talented singer. My day job is as a associate professor of computer science at KTH, Royal Institute of Technology. And in my off time, I play accordion and I study Irish traditional music. And this is where my research has become very interesting to me because I get to mix my love of accordion and music modeling and generation. And in a sense, it completes the whole circle, the feedback loop of the models that I train. I can test them by submitting them to the things I have learned about Irish accordion and Irish traditional music, and determine whether the system is working or how it's failing. Most interesting times musically have come when the system fails and it starts to explore regions of its space that it really hasn't got much data for. So I find these musical, these kinds of accidents musically interesting. Our entry to the competition comes from several different AI systems. One system that was trained on Irish traditional music produced the melody. The GPT-2 model we used to create lyrics. We used the wonderful music transformer to create a piano accompaniment for the melody. And then put it together, we used a disclavier piano as one of the members of the group, and we layered this song together in that way. And then finally, we used an AI system created by Lander to master the final result. So there's several different layers of AI involvement in our work, and the subject matter is actually quite human, and deals with a sensitive subject matter, but perhaps we can discuss that later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bob. And next up, team number 2, we have Team CHEPANG.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Diwas. I mainly play guitar, bass, a little bit of drums, keys, and I've been interested in music for a long time. I've worked with different musicians, creating, composing, and arranging different music. And I was really fascinated with this idea that you could have AI assisting you, or you assisting the AI, or any other way to create new kind of music. And I'm mostly interested in this project. I was interested in bringing out the culture, the heritage of Nepal. Um, I've been working with different ensembles. For instance, Kutumba is one of the ensemble um, where we where the band explores different traditional Nepalese instruments, and they have been composing for a long time, since 2004. Um, and after that, honestly, like when I knew about the competition, I was approached. I talked to people from CHEPANG. They are like heavy metal grindcore band based in New York. They like to call themselves immigrant core because all of them are immigrants from Nepal and currently residing in USA. Um, and the third band I was interested in merging in this project was Maharjan project. They are mostly based on traditional Nepali music as well as jazz songs. Hari Maharjan is one of the virtuoso guitarists from Nepal. So he was he his composition actually merges east with the west, um, in terms of music and collaborations. Um, so the background of our musical heritage from Nepal is a multi-ethnic, multiracial, multicultural, multi-religious, and multilingual country. We have different genres of song like Tamang Selo, Maitele Gurung Newar, Bhajan, Lokdori is one of the most famous. But lately, there has been a proliferation of like having heavy metal rock music, progressive rock, and all of those influences from Western side too. So it's pretty interesting to see how musicians have brought together different genres and created their own um, in terms of composition and making songs. In this project, we have Kutumba playing mostly Newa music, CHEPANG playing grindcore, and Hari Maharjan playing fusion music. So um, I try to bring them together through AI. Mostly use sample RNN. All of my outputs are directly model outputs from sample RNN. I trained 3 different models because it would be too confusing for a single model to go and model all 3 different genres, which are widely different from each other. The human process in this project was arrangement and curation and arrangement, because there are so many outputs, so many different variations of temperature and the model output itself. So I brought all of the music together in Logic Pro because I love arranging and I love composing music. So I brought them together and then put some limiter and compressor as a post-prod step, and then that's it. That was it. That was the process. And yeah, the future of our project is mainly we started thinking about like maybe we could have um, an album generated by AI, mostly sample RNN up to this point. So with CHEPANG, what we are planning to do is we are going to release Swata. That's the name of the album. And it will have like 4 sides, where three sides will be played by actual musicians, and the 4th side will be model generated, which will be trained upon the 3 sides played by the human. So yeah, looking forward to different projects, and actually I'm also excited about preserving our music in the weights of neural network, using different technologies in the future.
Thank you very much, Team CHEPANG. Moving on, calling in from Madrid, we have Team Coco, whose submission was a AI music fused with a Hispanic lullaby.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yes. Yes.
Well, we are Menara, Gonimix, and Andino. We are a Spanish team formed by Paula Colmenares León, Fernando López Gavilanes, and me, Gonzalo Nieto Montero. And we also counted on the collaboration of Juan Fernández Sabater Muñoz as guitarist and guitar arranger. Juan, un beso if you are watching us. And Paula studies literature, translation, and creative writing. And Menara, her artistic name, is a delusional singer who thinks herself famous. In her own words, Menara allows Paula to embody different characters and explore the intersection of word and flesh. She is the singer, composer, and songwriter of our song, and she has also created the artwork. Fernando, on the other side, is a telecommunication systems engineer who works on speech processing, and he thinks he has found a link between his 2 passions, music and science. And since he started using machine learning, he wonders if he can create art using tuning weights, losses, and optimizers. And he has participated in the machine learning engineering process. And lastly, me, Gonzalo, I am a musician and sound engineer currently studying sound and music computing at the Music Technology Group in Barcelona, although right now we are in Madrid. And I'm interested in demystifying AI in popular culture, and at the same time in exploring the possibilities of new deep learning tools in music creation. I participated as machine learning engineer, music producer, mixing engineer, and composer in our song. The title of our song is Coco, duérmete ya. It is an adult lullaby in which a mother sings to the Coco to put it to sleep. The Coco is a nursery cautionary figure equivalent to the boogeyman in English. And this mother fears that when no one is afraid of the Coco, when the sleeping child stops thinking of it, the Coco will no longer exist. And in the same way, if she falls asleep and stops thinking of herself, there will no one to think of her, and she too will no longer exist. That's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Team Coco. And lastly, joining us from South Korea, we have Team Han. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. We're Team Han, and you can just call us Han. We're a team of 2 engineers and 1 composer, 1 video director, and 1 project manager. At the center, this is our music video director, Jun. She is a 3D artist experimenting in AI and new media. Can you show us our slide? Thank you. Next to Jun on the right side, this is Sora Moito, and she's an amazing musician who is in charge of producing music for this project. At the end of the left is Yangan, which is me, is our project manager and also an AI media artist based on Seoul. And other 2 teammates in our photo is Jaehee and Eunjung. They're AI researcher in Ewha Women's University and mainly contributed to generating melody and lyrics by AI. We're really honored with this opportunity and hope people get to know about us and our work. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Thank you.
Our biggest interest is to expand the horizons of inspiration, creativity, and artistic expression through AI. Without human creativity can also be set to data-driven thinking produced by personal experience. Therefore, artificial intelligence can mimic it and provide more creative sources for humans. So we set the themes of Han, which is also the name of our team. Han is unique Korean emotion that is deeply intertwined with the trials and sorrow during Korean history, like pain of division. The purpose of our team is trying to expand and reproduce these abstract feelings of Han with AI. Please watch our final results with music videos in this contest participation page and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Team Han. I think our video, opening video from Ajay, our guest judge, is ready. So now let's maybe first view the video. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ajay Kapoor, and I'm the Director of Music Technology at California Institute of the Arts, as well as Associate Provost for Creative Technologies. Using artificial intelligence in music has been something I've been doing for the last 20 years. I've been learning a lot about how we've been using the latest technologies often applied to Western classical music and bringing it over to my own culture, to Indian classical music, and building a number of things such as hyper instruments based on Indian classical music, such as the sitar, the tabla, using and building machine learning algorithms to learn things about rag, to learn things about tabla strokes, to learn things about the live performance and how we can train networks to understand with a cultural sensitivity to what's actually going on. What we're doing in this workshop is really important. This discussion is very important. We have to look at culture as we're building these AI algorithms and bring them together in a way that's ready for the world and that has all influences from all over the world. It's been amazing being a judge on the AI Song Contest this year and listening to music from all over the world. And it's great to see that people are bringing their culture with them in making these pieces. We have a long way to go as a community, but it's incredible to see what we've done so far. Good luck, and looking forward to learn from all of you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Ajay, who can't join us in person here, but yeah, this is great. So we'll now move on to our panel discussion, part of our panel. So how it's going to work is Hanoi and I will be asking a series of questions, and some of them will be team specific, some of them will be more general questions, and I will get it started. Our first question is for Team Stockholm, so Bob. In your entry, you presented a really beautiful AI-generated folk melody sung in Swedish. So my question is, if you can talk a little bit about the uniqueness of machine folk when compared to other living folk music traditions. In your opinion, what's the defining feature of folk music, whether it's generated by machines or composed by humans? Any differences between the two? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rujing. That's a very good question. Machine folk is a moniker that was invented or coined by a journalist in the UK when we started to do our research in this area, training these long short-term memory networks. Nothing unique or special about them. It's technology that's been around for at least 10 years. But we have a lot of data, and the data is represented in a way that makes really brings out the magic of LSTMs and their expressiveness. And so machine folk is a term that the guy used to describe this music that was created or generated by these methods of artificial intelligence. And I've adopted this name in my own artistic practice as a way to describe what I'm doing. This is music generated by AI and played on folk instruments as if such a thing has been done for centuries. With folk music, one of the defining characteristics is how it's thought about among its practitioners. Many people in Irish traditional music believe that the music comes from centuries of practice and that people gather together in pubs and play in groups. But in fact, that practice is relatively new. A lot of the music does come from older origins, the slow airs, for instance, and that it's made for dancing, but they were developed much more recently. And in my case, I approach these tunes generated by mainly my systems that I've developed as if I'm approaching an Irish traditional tune. It's far from a living tradition, and since I'm the only practitioner of machine folk, it's very close to becoming extinct. But that's okay. It's my own artistic expression. Another defining feature of folk music is authorship and individual ownership are concepts that are irrelevant, I would say. It's a music practice that comes from a community in a space and a time, and there's a community that breathes life into it. And when it comes to Irish traditional music, the community is actually worldwide. There's a community growing in Japan of people learning and playing Irish traditional music and accordion, and some fantastic players from there. But that being said, many of the Irish traditional tunes that are played today are associated with particular individuals like Finbar Dwyer and Julia Clifford that are in a place and a time, and they have specific teachers, and those teachers learn from other teachers, and that provenance is a very important aspect. Where did you learn that tune? I learned the tune from a recording of Joe Cooley playing at one of his last concerts, etc. That's where the story becomes special. Machine folk has no such stories. It's in a sense invented out of thin air, but from a fancy statistical machine that has parameters that are extracted from the collective data that's been created by a community. So it's a weird mix of attribution and lack of attribution, and music that comes without practice, but now I'm playing it in an Irish traditional style, or at least trying to. But I find it a very fascinating way to engage with the tradition, the living tradition as it is, too. So, in brief, that's what machine folk is and some defining characteristics of folk music.
Thank you very much, Bob. Find very interesting, you talk about how that the machine is sort of a distillation of the community and how people, learn from recordings of others. This is a nice link to a question that I have for Team CHEPANG. So, we often document, the evolution of culture through mediums such as recordings and photography and video. And what's really been very fascinating listening to all the entries this year is, what do you think about AI potentially being like a new format for this, for recording and documenting culture? Like in the future, instead of just listening to a recording of Lok Dori, for example, from Nepal, would it make sense to actually just interact with an Lok Dori AI model?
Actually, that's a very interesting question because Lokdori in itself is a very interactive genre where two groups of people sit together and basically mock each other using different aspects of their lives. And I can definitely see a question answer kind of model where you could have one human and another AI talking to each other, basically mocking each other and having fun together. Or you could also have two different AI model, or I mean, like two different systems where they talk to each other and have some kind of interactivity going on. So I'm pretty optimistic on this kind of interactivity going on in the future.
And do you think, this kind of interactivity could, deepen people's understanding of the musical culture, especially for those who belong to the culture, maybe those who are outside the culture?
Exactly. Since Lokdori mostly is based on Nepali music, Nepali lyrics, it could go on to having a different lyrics like from a different countries, or it could even have different kind of music. For instance, like blues and jazz played together, like jazz blues. So we could probably have like Lokdori with bhajan or Lokdori with other Newa music or anything else like that. So it would deepen and also enrich the current scene of Lokdori and other type of folk music. But honestly, there is always a story behind music. So this type of using AI system, maybe the story might not be that deep, but it depends upon who is listening and how much interactivity is going on. Because at the end of the day, it's all about interaction and having fun and having a good night. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Diwas. So you talk a lot about the interactive dynamism, this interaction between the AI model, maybe with other AI models and other musicians. This leads to my next question for Team Coco. So there are parts in your writing where you talk about the process of writing the Coco piece for Coco, and you mentioned how Gonzalo said that I would not call any AI that we used a collaborator. I'm really curious to know in what aspects what fundamental aspects must the AI have in order for you to maybe call it a collaborator rather than just another musical tool?
Yes, well, in my opinion, there are no aspects that could be improved in order to call AI tools collaborators, because I think they will always be tools, basically. Because I think this collaborator denomination is misleading. It contributes to this narrative in which artificial intelligence is a living being and in which machines could conquer the world someday. And I understand this is interesting for the arts, and they use it to create stories and debate. But I think as engineers or scientists, we should avoid this terminology. And the issue implying that an AI is a living being is that we focus in where the focus is not. For example, if a music recommendation system generates racist recommendations, the problem is not the recommendation system itself as an independent entity, as a living being, but the problem is in the engineers behind it who designed it. So for this reason, I wouldn't call AI a collaborator in any case.
Really fascinating. And then, in judging this year's entries, I found reading the process documents to be really a fascinating process. Just reading about all the different teams, reflecting on precisely different roles of AI and collaborator tool. Even I believe even some teams even describe music AI as potentially functioning as an artist. So this is definitely something that we'll continue discussing. So moving to another really interesting collaboration or utilizing of AI as a tool, Team Han. really, firstly, congratulations on a really beautiful entry. My question is, what was the greatest challenge you encountered when trying to express this culturally very unique sentiment of Han, which according to your process document is an emotional element about love, separation, and sadness, right? So yeah, I'm curious on what was the hardest bit of trying to express this through AI, and how did you eventually overcome the challenge?
The biggest challenge we faced was the lack of data, as Han is an abstract feeling that is formed throughout Korean cultural history, and it was hard to find enough data that inherits the meaning of Han. So, as an alternative, we used training data from different genres of music that we believe to have similar feelings, like Korean ballads, but still none of the AI's final 16-bit melody output could properly express the feeling of Han. But fortunately, some parts of the outputs feel well with the feeling we wanted. So we picked two of them and mixed the part we favor and made it into a final melody source. During this process, we felt that a bit of human guidance was inevitable at some point. But although the traditional music representing Han and the modern ballad are mixed for the data set, and the results was amazing. Actually, Korean traditional music style is not popular with Korean either. But by training the mixed data set, we got a key melody source that modern people could sympathize with and enjoy altogether, while awakening the feeling of traditional sentiment. So our final output demonstrated that it is possible into a modernized one using AI. This is beyond testing and proving whether it is possible to implement the extremely abstract and special sentiment of Han with AI.
Well, thank you very much, Team Han. As a practitioner of music machine learning for and applying these to musical cultures from Thailand, for example, I also feel you that data is a very, very big problem in the machine learning field, and that's something that I resonate with. Team Coco also mentioned another problem that we find in machine learning tools, especially regarding biases in the data sets. If there are any kind of offensive or potentially racist comments in the data set, the machine learning model can sort of take these outputs and then actually like regenerate them as part of its output. So this leads nicely to our general questions open for all teams to discuss. Could you name areas of potential improvements? If there was a call to research scientists, call to applied scientists and machine learning engineers across the world who are working in this field, what are potential improvements for the research community to work on if we were to imagine a more productive partnership between AI and the wide array of musical cultures and styles that are out there in the world? Anyone?
Can you just unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Got a hard question.
I can answer on a meta level.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about
please.
this. Easy answers are things like linking together melody with lyrics, subject matter, long-term structures, augmenting models to accommodate music that isn't focused on dots on a page, but is timbrally focused or sample-based, for instance. But let me change my hat from engineer to an activist in a sense that I've become transitioned in the past few years, is that one area for improvement is improving ourselves as participants in a culture that we study and create in. And I recommend everyone read particular texts about the culture of music, what music is. Read Jacques Attali's Noise, an economy, a political economy of music. This is something that I read recently, and it's blown my mind in a sense of I've never thought about economics and the uncontested assumptions of value and impact that we have as artists, as researchers, as administrators, participants, consumers. And there's a perversion of incentives by media giants to get as many plays as possible, get as many likes, increasing advertisement revenue, etc. I think we should all be fighting the idea that music should be free. That's something that people are now taking for granted with Spotify. You just listen to a few ads and you have unlimited CD collection in a sense. So I think that's one thing, well, several things actually, that we can do to improve the future of the music in which we are studying and creating.
Cool. Thank you very much, Bob, for that very thoughtful answer. Yes, like longer term structure, big, more closer relationships between all the different aspects that make up music is very, very important. So related to this, a follow-up question, again, open to all members, like, based on your experience in writing the pieces of music that you submitted to the AI Song Contest today, imagine yourself in 10 years. Like, what is an AI tool that you would, be very, very excited, and if you were to open up, and fire up and use in your creative process, would bring a smile to your face?
Honestly, I think interactivity is something that if I think about it, it just puts a smile on my face. Like if I can interact with the system and the system gives me back some kind of output where it's closer to what I'm thinking or to what other musicians are thinking in a band setting. So that would be pretty cool, because it will help musicians get out of the rut, and it would also explore different horizon. For instance, if I'm just writing a blues music, maybe a jazz line would sound perfect in certain kind of scenarios. So those kind of aspect is something I really look forward to.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you so much. So I think I see that we have a question from the live discussion. And this is from actually from Marx Simos, one of our guest judges too. So question open to several of the teams, maybe all of the teams. What are the ethical professional issues that arise when using a genre-focused training set? What are the potential impacts on the musical communities themselves? What are the benefits to the stakeholders? Very important questions. Yeah. Any takers?
My
Bob,
hand's up.
Yeah, I can see your hands up. Go for it.
This is a big question and something that I have fallen into in terms of submitting thousands and tens of thousands of crowdsourced transcriptions of Irish traditional tunes to my algorithms. I knew that I liked Irish traditional music and I appreciated it from trips to Ireland, but I didn't really know what it was about. And with some testy or angry interaction with some practitioners, not all of them, some practitioners, I started to think that maybe I need to learn a bit more about what I'm doing and how it could potentially harm. So I, in a sense, took a pilgrimage to Ireland to atone for my sins and attended a summer school, Irish traditional music summer school. A couple of years ago, I started lessons online with a Irish accordion teacher, and I really started to work on this to develop an appreciation for what is this all about. How am I hurting through my use of these algorithms? And I think this is something that every engineer working with data, they need to develop an appreciation for the source of that data and its context. Why was it collected? Who was it collected by? What uses are anticipated for this data? Who must I contact in order to, in a sense, get permission, or maybe not permission in this case, because there are self-ascribed gatekeepers to traditional music. But that's an odd thing. Everyone is welcome, in a sense, to come and learn about this music. So take the time to think about what you're doing and whether what you're going to create with your system can cause harm. In my case, I see such a strong and committed population, young population in Ireland, to learning and preserving folk traditional music, Irish traditional music, that there's no way my little algorithms don't hold a candle at all to the power of these youngsters who can certainly outplay.
I think, Bob, you froze for a short while.
On which question did I freeze? Which part?
At the very end, although unfortunately we are coming to the end of today's panel, so we're going to wrap up the panel. Everyone who's watching, thank you very much for joining this workshop today, and also a huge thank you to our 4 teams Stockholm, CHEPANG, Coco, Han, for your submissions and giving us more insight into some of the thoughts and some of that went into how you put the song together. And also a big thank you to Stacy for organizing this workshop. Stay tuned for many more exciting events happening today. The next panel is called Feedback Loop, ML, Music and Sound with Anna Huang and Hendrik Vincent Coops. And also remember that all the songs that were featured in our panel today are also linked and available to listen to on the AI Song Contest website. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.